Hello, and welcome to the all-new, completely redesigned Presstimator. This video is intended for users who've already seen and are somewhat familiar with the Presstimator already. For users that haven't seen the Presstimator before, I'll be creating a different video series for a complete tour of the software. So let's take a look. Right away, you'll notice the new layout and new user interface. You'll see we now have a collapsible main menu that's always available, and this allows you to get from one area to another without having to close down the current screen you're viewing. The new version takes advantage of today's HD monitors, high-resolution screens, and is designed for the default resolution for today's laptops. The new layout allows us to navigate more easily through the tab controls at the top of the screens. And the new design allows us to show more information and show it more clearly without a lot of scrolling or expanding of the screens. And also, the grids are expanded as well to show more items in the grid. Okay, let's take a look at what the new layout of Shop Settings looks like. As you already know, Shop Settings is sort of the engine that drives the whole estimating software. So simply clicking on the Shop Settings button in the main menu brings us to the new screens. As you can see, the toolbar that existed in the prior version is still here with a couple of additions, as well as the full menu as before, but this now pops down in a graphical display for easier access. Once in Shop Settings, you'll see how the new tabs are arranged. The list of topics is now displayed down the left-hand side of the screen, so it's now easier to read and navigate. And you can see how much more information can be displayed now that there's more landscape, even while the main menu is still being displayed. Okay, let's go to Paper Stocks and see what's new there. Once again, you'll see how easy the screens are to read now that there's more space on them. But one big thing that's new in the program is the grid control. And as you know, grids are the controls that are found on so many of the screens throughout the Presstimator, and they're now loaded with new features and functionality. As before, when you right-click on a row in the grid, it brings it up into the entry area for you to make changes. But now, when you right-click on a header in the grid, a whole new pop-up menu is displayed, giving you options to sort, filter, group, search, and print, based on the column that you just right-clicked on. For example, let's say we want to filter and find all of our newsprints. We can just click in this box, say find things that begin with newsprint, and you don't even have to complete the entry area. Say OK, and it now filtered out based on newsprint. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see here what it's filtering on, and I can just turn off the filter temporarily to toggle between them, or I can remove the filter entirely and go back to the original display. Another option, if I right-click on this, let's say I want to find my newsprints, is I can say group by this column. And I right-clicked on the type, and so now it just grouped everything into by my paper types. I can expand those by seeing what's inside each category. And let's say I have my newsprints, and here's my white newsprints, and I can continue to group to fine-tune this when I'm searching for. Let's say I also want to group by the color, so now I have all my white newsprints. And let's say I also wanted to search on the basis weight. So now I have things categorized in newsprint, white, and then I can actually see my 30-pound newsprint. And then once I click on that, I'm able to enter the information up here. This functionality is available on all the grids throughout the Presstimator, so it makes it easier to find the specific item you're looking for updating information and entering and editing that information more easily. Let's also visit the Press screen in Shop Settings. So if I click on Press, you'll see all the information is here from the prior version of the Presstimator. There's just more area now to show better organized data in the entry area and more information in the grids. Throughout Shop Settings, you'll see these new screens and these new grid features. Okay, let's close Shop Settings though and see what else is new. Let's open up quote history as we start to learn how to work with quotes now in the new version. One thing you'll notice is that we still have the filters that we had originally set up in the prior versions, but now, as we just showed with the new functionality in the grids, you can also group and sort by right-clicking and doing it from the pop-up menu that's displayed on each column. One of the things that's also would be very handy in quote history is if you wanted to be able to find a particular quote. You can use the Show Find panel. This will bring up this little entry box where you can put in whatever text that you want to look for, and this will look through all of the columns throughout the grid for the text that you're typing in. So let's say we wanted to find the quote that we did on October 1st. You'll also notice that as soon as we start to type, it's highlighting matches in all columns for what you've started to type in here. And as I start to enter more information, it now is reducing the number of items in the grid, so it helps me fine tune. So as I was looking for something on October 5th, you now see that it's highlighting the quote or quotes that are on October 5th. And if I clear this, I go back to the full list that's here. You'll also notice that in the drop downs now, as you start to type in here, you'll also notice how it autofills in here as well to help you navigate to items more quickly this way as well. And this is true for all drop downs in here to make the finding of information easier. So let's start working with a quote. And you can see is if I open a couple of quotes, in this case I have sample quote and sample quote 2 open, you can see how easy it is to click from one to another to navigate back and forth. Now that we've jumped to the main paper tab, you can see that we've added this area here to bring your focus to this, as these are items that may need attention for a specific quote. You'll also see that our grid still has our special functionality here in a pop-up menu as I right-click, which allows us to group and sort by. But you'll also notice that on the bottom of each grid now, within a quote, we now can do totals within certain columns in the grid. And those will also be specific if I were to say group by this. You can see that if I grouped by the paper type, you can see that I have 52 pages of newsprint. This is my waste pounds and what my cost is versus the 4 pages of offset and the totals for there. These are the subtotals, and down here are the totals for all of the items in the grid. And you can see as I can expand these, you can see how all the individual items total up to be what's in the subtotal. And you'll notice even while a column is being grouped, I can still click on the individual items within that grid and still make modifications here and use the apply button to save them down into the grid. Let's jump over to Press, and you'll see that we've also created a focused area for things that you might want to change for a particular quote. In this case, the make ready times for this particular quote, or the impressions per hour that may be running. And you can see here that at the bottom of the screen we also do totals there as well, and you can subdivide those down into subtotals as well if you'd like. But as you can see, all the screens still have the same totals information as the prior versions, just with more room to show more information. Lastly, let's jump over to Summary. And as you'll see, our inner tabs still go from left to right. And as I click on Markup, you'll notice that once the screen draws, we show a lot more information, but I still need to scroll. In the new version, Scroll Mouse is activated, so now I can scroll without having to grab the indicator over onto the right. And I can scroll through screens much more easily using my Scroll Mouse. You'll also notice that our ability to override with green O's and red flags has now changed to green flags and red flags. So in this case, if I want to override paper, I can just click on it and again just type in the information as I did in prior version. Everything is recalculated, and I can do this for all the other items here, just like we did in the prior versions. But you'll see now that it's a red flag and a green flag for overriding. Well, that wraps up this overview of the redesigned version of the Presstimator. Thanks for watching, and if you would like any more information, please visit Presstimator.com by clicking on the link below. Thank you.